On this Wednesday night, new defection. Another MP ditches the federal Conservatives to join the Liberals.
Welcome, Matt. Welcome to the government team.
Why this Edmonton MP jumped ship, what this means for the Tories and for the Liberals' minority government. A fresh, brutal blast of winter.
It has been one of the worst winters I've ever seen.
The warning to Newfoundland and Labrador of what's still on the way, and the nasty weather that's dumping on southern Ontario. Stephen Colbert versus CBS.
We could not have him on the broadcast. Then,
why there's a fight over this interview he did. Plus, boy, it was a nail-biter how Team Canada barely survived this rinkside battle.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There's another change in Canada's political landscape. The federal Conservatives have lost a third member of Parliament to the Liberals. Edmonton MP Matt Jeneroux, who had said late last year that he was resigning from the House of Commons, now says he's not quitting, he's changing teams. He was welcomed to the Liberals by Prime Minister Mark Carney in Edmonton today.
Great day for Edmonton, great day for Alberta and for Canada, and thank you very much for coming and joining the team at a crucial time for the city, the province, and the country.
Our chief political correspondent David Akin has the political backstory on this and what it means for both the Liberal minority government and for the Conservatives. David.
Well, Donna, you know, this deal to pull Edmonton MP Matt Jeneroux from the Conservatives over to the Liberals had really been in the works for about 3 months. But when the Conservatives first learned last November that Jeneroux was thinking about crossing the floor, they confronted him. And rather than cross at that time, Jeneroux said, he would just resign his seat. And he said that resignation was going to take effect sometime early this year.
There he is. How are you, Matt? Thanks for coming.
But now, Jeneroux has changed his mind and he's changed parties. A decision he said he felt compelled to make when he heard Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech in Davos.
I think for me, that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians.
Carney has given Jeneroux a new role as a special advisor on economic and security partnerships.
Welcome, Matt. Welcome to the government team. It's a great honor.
Jeneroux is now the third Conservative to quit on Pierre Poilievre since last spring's election. That is unprecedented. Poilievre put up a social media post saying, quote, Jeneroux has betrayed the people of Edmonton Riverbend.
David, where does this leave the Conservative leader and his party, which looks a bit weaker today?
Yeah, a couple of points, Donna. First, Poilievre, did win 87% on his leadership review a couple of weeks ago in Calgary. But that was a poll of only the 3,000 or so delegates who were in Calgary. That is not necessarily indicative of where he stands with the grassroots or even with his own caucus. And of course, some in his caucus are clearly unhappy, not only about Jeneroux's departure, but also about some other matters related to Poilievre's leadership. Now, the Conservative caucus does have the power to remove their own leader. That's what happened to Aaron O'Toole. But among those I've talked to today, there really is no sense that enough MPs think that that would be a good idea right now to get rid of Poilievre. Donna.
Gaining another MP is quite a coup for the Liberals, who are chasing a majority, but they're also losing some of their own MPs. David, how do the numbers add up now?
Okay, so here's the math on this. First of all, you need 172 for a majority, 172. With Jeneroux, the Liberals have 169, but there are 3 vacant seats with by-elections pending. Now, if the Liberals win all 3 of those by-elections, presto, they get to the majority number of 172. But one of those seats belongs to the Speaker of the House of Commons, who normally only votes in a tie. So really what the Liberals need to get what I'll call their working majority is one more floor crosser plus all those by-elections. Will they get another floor crosser? I mean, this is the big question that we're all talking about. And I have Conservatives telling me that, yes, they think there will be more floor crossers to come. Donna.
Lots to watch for. David Akin in Ottawa. Thank you. A winter storm has buried eastern Newfoundland and Labrador. More than 50 centimeters of snow piled up in less than 24 hours in some areas. There have been all kinds of disruptions, including flight cancellations. And the RCMP is warning residents and businesses who are busy shoveling not to dump that snow on the roads. Heidi Petrachik reports on how people are coping.
It's snow, storm after storm after storm.
St. John's resident Linda Smith and her husband Wayne are tired, digging out from the second big snowfall this month.
It has been one of the worst winters I've ever seen. So, yeah.
And it's only February.
And it's only February the 18th, which is crazy.
Residents out in full force, all straining to move the heavy, wet snow, and lots of it. Initial reports indicate more than 50 centimeters fell in parts of the Avalon Peninsula.
We were expecting on the high end up towards about 60 centimeters with this storm, kind of on the high end of the range.
4,500 Newfoundland Power customers started the day without electricity. The utility restored most by mid-morning. School was cancelled throughout the hardest hit areas. Crews in the capital working full tilt, and the city's roughly $30 million snow clearing budget.
I would think that we're starting to get into the point where we'll be going into our reserves. But that's what we have the reserves for the snowy day as opposed to the rainy days.
Residents in the nearby town of Paradise know just how bad it is. One opening her door to find a wall of snow. It took her 2 hours to shovel out.
I got my favorite spot out by the back door, tucked between the house and the shed.
That's where Lloyd Lehman takes his snow measurements, and this time he needed a longer ruler.
It's been a while since we've had over 50 centimeters, in one go. And it's not even 24 hours yet.
Police have told people to stay off the roads. Part of the Trans-Canada, a half hour outside of St. John's, shut down because it looked like this. And the storm isn't done yet. An orange storm warning remains in effect until Thursday morning.
But as far as I know, we're supposed to have an early spring.
A hopeful wish from those giving the snow from this winter blast the heave-ho. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
Severe winter weather is also hammering parts of the prairies in southern Ontario. Frigid temperatures and snowfall warnings are in place in parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan. And in southern Ontario, a nasty mix of snow, ice pellets and freezing rain has blanketed the region, knocking out power and making roads treacherous. Global News meteorologist Anthony Farnell is tracking that storm for us. Anthony.
Donna, this storm had it all. It started as a period of rain, and then as the temperature dropped, we had freezing rain, ice pellets, then snow in the GTA. Huge, massive, dollar-sized flakes, and that accumulated quickly, anywhere from 5 to 15 centimeters across the region. It doesn't sound like much, but when it's combined with ice pellets and freezing rain, it's very heavy, tough to shovel, and the plows had trouble as well. The good news, all that's left is a little freezing drizzle. This system is weakening now off to the north and east. It is the same frontal system that stretches over 3,000 kilometers from the east coast all the way back to Alberta. Yes, it's the same storm responsible for all that snow in the prairies, and we're not quite done yet in southern Ontario. We get a break on Thursday, but Friday we may do this all over again. More likely rain in Toronto, but a period of snow and freezing rain also expected across parts of southern Ontario. Donna?
Okay, Global News meteorologist Anthony Farnell, thanks. There's been a tragedy in California. An avalanche in the Lake Tahoe region swept away 15 backcountry skiers. 8 have been found dead and 1 is still unaccounted for. The sheriff says investigators will look into the decision by the trekking company to go ahead with the trip despite a powerful winter storm. It happened Tuesday morning as that storm battered the region. The group included guides and skiers on a 3-day trip in the Sierra Nevada mountains. 1 man and 5 women were rescued Tuesday evening. The search mission has moved from rescue to recovery now, but teams can't get to the bodies because of heavy snow and high winds and the risk of more avalanches. It is the deadliest avalanche in the U.S. in more than 4 decades. The Canadian government is making changes to immigration policy to fast-track the entry of certain skilled workers. It wants to make it easier for so-called top talent to be eligible for permanent residency. Jillian Piper explains who the government wants to attract to this country and the labor shortages it needs to address.
If I had drums, I would say drum roll here.
The immigration minister building some suspense while unveiling Ottawa's plan to target more international workers.
We are using the tools at our disposal to attract talent that grows our economy.
Those tools include creating new immigration express entry categories for doctors, researchers, senior managers, and transport occupations like pilots with work experience in Canada, along with skilled military recruits with job offers from the Canadian Armed Forces.
I see that this is a targeted evidence-based strategy. So these categories are not random. They are informed by the labor market data.
The data shows some concerning labor gaps. The Armed Forces needs about 13,000 more members to be at full capacity, while the family doctor shortage is also expected to increase to 47,800 vacancies across Canada by 2033. But this economics professor questions whether the changes were really necessary, given the existing immigration system already had rankings in place to favor skilled workers.
What I'd rather see is we get back to revising the comprehensive ranking system and move away from these kind of boutique categories of immigration, which maybe make nice press releases for the government.
Of the citizenship.
While Ottawa is hoping to attract top talent, the government is not increasing overall immigration levels, instead sticking to the reduced targets laid out in the November budget of 380,000 new permanent residents per year, a drop of 15,000 people.
Creating hundreds of thousands of new careers.
It's unclear if there is cross-Canada buy-in on the new measures.
I have continued to work with all provinces and all territories since coming in this position in the last 9 months.
Immigration will likely continue to play a role in growing the workforce for years to come, Donna, as Canada currently has a record low fertility rate at 1.25 children per woman.
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thanks. Canada's minister in charge of North American trade has just given an update on his extended trade mission to Mexico. Dominic LeBlanc, along with a delegation of more than 370 Canadian business leaders, have been holding meetings in Mexico since Sunday.
Canada looks to double its non-U.S. exports over the next decade. We intend to deepen our economic and people-to-people ties with Mexico.
LeBlanc calls this Canada's largest bilateral trade mission in over 2 decades. The talks will continue until Friday. A close call for Team Canada coming up, the must-win game at the Olympics that had fans on the edge of their seats. What a day for Canada at the Winter Olympics. There was triumph on the speed skating short track. Canada won a gold and a bronze medal. And in men's hockey, it was a nail-biter as Canada looked like it might lose the quarterfinal game and get knocked out. Then it was tied. Then it went into overtime. Mike Armstrong was one of the countless Canadian fans watching. Mike.
Well, Donna, this was a quarterfinal matchup that was not supposed to be difficult. It was.
Team Czechia led for much of the game. Nick Suzuki tied it up with a tip with just 3 minutes remaining, and then it was Mitch Marner in overtime crossing the blue line.
Let's go, Canada! Let's go!
Now, there's an Irish pub here in Milan that's being turned into a sort of Canadian pub. This was the moment the winning goal was scored.
That was pretty close. How are we feeling?
Relieved now. Yeah, that's the answer. Yeah.
Extremely stressful. We didn't think it was going to be this difficult, but we're glad they pulled it out. That was exciting. That was awesome.
Stressful, but the most amazing outcome. Adversity, they battled through. We got the win. That's all we can ask for.
Well, there was a negative from the game, an injury to Team Canada's captain. Sidney Crosby left the game early in the second period with what appeared to be a leg injury. Now, Canada's success on the short track rink continued Wednesday. The women's relay team lost the lead late in the 3,000-meter relay, but won the bronze medal. And it was gold in the men's 500-meter final. Stephen Dubois already had a silver in the mixed team relay. Tonight, he won his first individual medal, Canada's fourth gold of these games.
Now, there is at least one medal guaranteed tomorrow. Canada's women's hockey team plays in the final against the U.S., The silver's guaranteed, but against their bitter rivals, there is only one thing they'll be thinking about, Donna: gold.
Mike Armstrong in Milan, thank you. Ahead, a winter warning that could be dire for the months ahead on the prairies. People across parts of the prairies are digging out from a winter storm right now, but in many regions there's been little precipitation this winter. According to the Canadian Drought Monitor, much of the country is abnormally dry. Large sections of the northern prairies and Northwest Territories are in severe to extreme drought conditions. Heather Urix-West looks at what that means for farmers and for the risk of wildfires.
With icy temperatures and a dump of heavy snow, mornings have been miserable this week across the prairies.
So I was shoveling for about an hour now, and you see still snow is coming.
I think we love the moisture but hate the shoveling.
The 10 to 40 centimeters that fell across Alberta, Saskatchewan and Manitoba is desperately needed after 2026 got off to an exceedingly dry start.
So compared to years past, this is still a very dry winter, and that's because that January precipitation value for most areas on the prairies was just so significantly below normal.
While the T-shirt weather brought sun worshippers outside, windy, warm conditions saw Alberta's fire season ignite early.
Through the winter, we had above seasonal temperatures.
With a new wildfire reported in early February near Rocky Mountain House.
Because you can have a wildfire start at any time of year if the conditions are right, and we have seen those warm, dry, windy conditions that are right for a wildfire even in February.
We've had a really dry winter, like exceptionally dry in some ways. Farmers are a pretty resilient bunch. We rely on the weather, but we can't control it.
But for cattle producers, if this winter isn't followed by a good amount of spring rain, soaring beef prices could climb even more.
If we don't get the rain, it's going to be really hard to, increase the nation's cow herd to meet, the demand and try to bring beef prices down a little bit. That's the main thing holding us back from increasing supply is the amount of moisture.
After this week's storm, forecasters aren't expecting much more precipitation through the end of the month. Farmers and firefighters hopeful that March and April turn into the snowiest months of the year. Heather Urix-West, Global News, Calgary.
Late night showdown. Stephen Colbert ditches the laughs and takes a serious swing at his network bosses. We'll tell you why next.
Without ever talking to me, the corporation put out this press release, this statement. Now, this is a surprisingly small piece of paper considering how many butts it's trying to cover.
Stephen Colbert isn't pulling any punches in a dispute with the American network CBS. He says it refused to air an interview he did with Democratic Texas Senate candidate James Talarico over fears it would violate federal regulatory guidelines in the U.S. Colbert's show also airs on Global here in Canada. He did end up posting the interview on YouTube. Eric Sorensen takes us through what's behind the dispute and what's at stake.
Guess who's running afoul of his network and the Trump administration again?
It's me.
Stephen Colbert.
Hang in there, buddy.
A day before, Colbert suggested he was barred by his CBS bosses from airing an interview with Texas Democratic Senate candidate James Talarico after Brendan Carr, chair of the Federal Communications Commission, a Trump appointee, questioned the exemption whereby talk shows are not required to offer equal time to political rivals. Colbert's take?
Donald Trump's administration wants to silence anyone who says anything bad about Trump on TV because all Trump does is watch TV.
So Colbert ran the interview on YouTube, where Talarico also took aim at the White House.
Now they're trying to control what we watch, what we say, what we read. And this is the most dangerous kind of cancel culture, the kind that comes from the top.
The next day, CBS issued a statement that Colbert read, saying that he was not prohibited from showing the interview, which could trigger the FCC equal time rule. The show was presented options to provide equal time for others.
I am well aware that we can book other guests.
The FCC chair recently explained the need to update the rules for broadcasters.
Congress was clear that the FCC has a role with respect to bona fide news. They were worried that TV programmers would, broadly take advantage of trying to claim they were bona fide news when they weren't.
But one FCC commissioner calls it corporate capitulation. Ana Gomez stated the FCC has no lawful authority to pressure broadcasters for political purposes or create a climate that chills free expression.
Trump must go! Colbert stays!
That's been the worry for fans who protested last summer after CBS and parent company Paramount canceled Colbert as of this spring. As for the Talarico interview, millions have clicked on YouTube to see it.
Stephen Colbert making headlines.
Stephen Colbert.
Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert.
Somebody that popular should get their own talk show.
Colbert's point? He's losing his talk show in 3 months. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Wednesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this store's handmade Olympic display in support of Team Canada in Sudbury, Ontario. We'd love to see Your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.